Welcome to the Women's Circle interviews. Our circle interviews are designed to model possibility, increase creativity, tap into intuition, and create a network of global connection to light up the world. It's only when you realize what's possible for you that you're able to step into who you are meant to be and build the business and life of your dreams on your own terms. You are truly magnificent and designed to live a life worthy of you. It's never too late to start. Are you ready? Let's dive right in. My guest today is Lisa Petty. Lisa is a midlife alchemist who helps women embody midlife as a powerful beginning rather than the beginning of the end. She started her career as a holistic nutritionist and health researcher and quickly became recognized internationally as a speaker, journalist, award-winning author, and media health expert. She has earned a PhD for her research on how midlife women experience self-care in the face of the social pressures on them to be perfect in every facet of their lives. Welcome to our circle, Lisa. I'm so grateful you agreed to join me today.
Oh, I'm so happy to be here. I think this is really important what you're doing.
Well, thank you. I think it's important what you're doing. Can you tell us more about that social pressure that you observed on women to be perfect?
Well, so first of all, let me step back a little bit and talk about research and how I got there. So when you're doing your dissertation, you're supposed to do something nobody's ever done before, right? Clearly, you're supposed to be contributing to what is known about a thing. So when I'm looking at the midlife experience, which is what interests me, we're always sort of interested in our own thing and how we're making our way through the world. I realized that most of the research on women at midlife focused on baby boomers. And it's like there was this hard line in the sand and nothing was available for anyone who was younger than a baby boomer. And being a Gen X, being that perennial middle child, I thought, what a great opportunity for me to focus on my generation. So that's essentially anyone born from 1965 to 1980. Some folks say 1985, right? So it's a lot of women now who are in their early 40s and beyond. And so that's how I got my niche, right? But what's fascinating is that the Generation X women and all of the women who came after were born into this social expectation of having it all, right? That especially if you were born or you're coming through your teen years in the 80s when Helen Gurley Brown released that book, You Can Have It All. Now, what that meant was you could have an amazing marriage, you could have a stellar career, you could have 2.6 children and a dog and a gorgeous home. And of course, you're going to be size 6 your whole life while you're having all of these things, right? And what I learned very quickly, both with working with women and in my research, was that having it all really means doing it all. So women were doing the partnering, doing the mothering, doing the career or earning income outside of the home and trying to keep the home and trying to juggle all the mental labor, which is all of the planning. What are we going to have for dinner? What are we going to put on the grocery list? Who's going to register the kids for their extracurriculars? All that mental labor still falls primarily to women. So Generation X women were the first ones that had this, I'm going to call it pressure, to have/do it all. And because of that, it was meant, I think, as this sort of opportunity, right? You're not being held back. You can have whatever you want. And rather than sort of being an opportunity to open a door and walk through it, I envision this long hallway where every door is open and we have to walk through all of them. So, and of course we have to be perfect as we're doing it. No complaining allowed, right? Suck it up, buttercup. So those expectations to have it all, to do it all, and to do it perfectly are very much a social, cultural thing. And it's an expectation. It's not a here you can if you want to. And a lot of women, I think, who are going through midlife now are trying to make some peace with that what do I actually want? So maybe they have achieved some of the things that were on their list. Maybe they've achieved all of them, and maybe now they're in this place where they're starting to question, oh, do I want these things I'm still pursuing, or don't I? So that's what I'm talking about when we talk about those social pressures on women and how they can get in the way of a woman taking care of herself.
So how, like, that's a lot of pressure, but how can we tell the difference between what society expects of us and what we really want?
That's a really good question, because I think a lot of young women did it by default, right? There was this sort of, I remember when I was a young woman, I was 25 years old, and all of my friends were already married and starting to have babies, and I felt like a spinster. And there was sort of this pressure to go out and do whatever you want. I remember my mother saying, oh, if I could do anything at your age, I'd be a stewardess. That's what the term was then. I'd be a stewardess and see the world. But there was also this undercurrent of, but you have to come home every night because I want grandchildren. So although there was the illusion that we had freedom, we really didn't. And so I think a lot of women got into, finding a partner, having children, all of those, starting a career without really thinking about what the things were that they wanted. And so I think that at midlife, depending on if you have children, depending on the age of the children, if you have them, depending on whether you're partnered, and right now we're in this period of crazy change, like nothing is the same today as it was yesterday. Yeah. There's an opportunity for women to just stop and take a moment and perhaps for the first time in decades, think about what we really want, what will fulfill us, what we can let go, particularly those expectations to look 27 when you're clearly not 27. That kind of social pressure to keep being self-sacrificing, keep giving till it hurts, keep giving to absolute exhaustion. I think when we get to midlife, we can finally sit back and go, whoa, hold on a minute. I'm realizing now I'm not Superwoman, right? I can start making choices. And I think that's one of the powers and one of the beauties of getting to midlife is that realization that I can turn inward now and figure out what I want.
So like, again, I'm still veering to like, how can you tell what do you really want versus these expectations? Because even when you said, like some people might realize they're not Superwoman, but what if they think they still have to be? Like, what if they're still clinging on? Like, I'm losing my steam, but is that something wrong with me? Or is it that I don't want that?
Right. So many good questions there. And certainly, I mean, in my midlife alchemy program, we go through all of it because that's a lot, right? What you've just asked is a lot. But I think women particularly need permission. They need permission. And this came from my findings, and it's also in tradition where there's this crone figure. And if you're not familiar with the term, it's essentially a wise woman. And when a wise woman turns to a younger woman and shares the wisdom, that she's acting as a crone, right? And I think when we get to a certain age, we start to feel as if we have wisdom, or when we're not quite ready for it, we turn to the crone or the wise woman. And this happened in my research, and it happens a lot with women I work with. They'll say, oh, my aunt, my crazy aunt who never got married and she lives in the woods, and she turned to me one day and said, honey, you're exhausted. When are you going to stop giving till it hurts, right? And so I think women need that. I think they need the support of the community to turn to them and say, it's okay. It's okay to let it go if it doesn't light you up. Now, clearly there are things that we have to do in our lives, right? I'm not saying it's all rainbows and butterflies, but there are things that we can let go. And sometimes it's a matter of having an outside person say, it's okay, you have permission to let it go. So if you don't have someone in your life to do that, let me, the stranger on the internet, be the one to say to you, you have permission to stop and think about the things that are too much for you. And the things that no longer bring you joy, the things that you would like to offload to someone else. For example, we're getting to an age in our lives now where maybe our parents need care. And, you know, as women, we tend to be the ones to step up. Well, if you have brothers, they need to be part of the game too, right? It tends to be the women all the time. And I know this because it's happening in my own family. We lost my father just a couple of months ago, and it's the women who are stepping up to take care of my mother. And I have brothers, and they're not there. So this idea of telling them, we need your support as well. So there's a certain amount of confidence, I think, that comes from, you know, getting to midlife and realizing what your own limitations are. But again, this idea that of giving yourself permission or accepting permission from somebody else to actually think about what it is that you need, what gives you joy, what depletes you, and if you are depleted, what will fill you back up again. And this is not about filling you up so you can continue to serve others. I don't like that story at all. No. I think that we have to fill ourselves up so that we're full.
Right.
Right? We don't want to be operating from depletion. That's not a healthy place to be.
Right.
So I hope I answered one of your questions.
You did, and there's so much to unpack, like you said. You also make reference to rude awakening. Can you tell us more what that means?
Well, okay, so we get to this point in our lives, and it usually coincides with perimenopause, where, you know, which can start anywhere in the early 30s. It usually starts around 35, but you might not be aware of it yet. So what that essentially means is you're not producing as many eggs and all of that sort of thing. So you might not be aware that this is happening, but essentially it means that you're on the road to menopause. So from 35, then 40, it tends to really start kicking in for women. 45, it gets more intense. And there's all of these symptoms, these physical symptoms that we experience. We might, try and put on jeans that fit us yesterday, and suddenly we can't do them up. So we're gaining weight overnight. We're not being able to sleep, or we're able to get to sleep, but then we wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning and we can't get back to sleep. And because we're not getting enough sleep, we tend to be a little bit more cranky. And a little bit more irritable, perhaps a little bit more impatient. But this is also the time where Jung calls it, we start to internalize. So when we're really young, we're finding the partner, we're having the family, we're creating the home, we're in the acquisition stage, right? A lot of effort going outward to create some structure and security in our lives. As we get to midlife, that energy turns inward. And we start to think about self-actualization and what we really want. Now, what the rude awakenings do, I think, and I'm referring to those symptoms, I'm referring to the fact that you feel like crap, right? Is it that your body has got your attention? And if you have been blessed with good health for most of your life, suddenly your body is being cranky and you don't know what to do with it anymore. And you can't continue doing what you've always done because it's not working anymore. So again, for the first time in decades, you have to pay attention to yourself. You have to figure out what is happening in your body. And again, thinking about that idea of the crone, this information is not passed down from generations, right? Part of my goal is to change that. But I mean, my mother never talked about menopause, ever. My grandmother didn't talk about it. I barely got a talk when puberty hit. Right. So on the other side of the story, there's absolutely no support coming in. So women hit this and there's no support there. So it's a rude awakening when you no longer know who you are. You no longer know how to feed yourself. You don't know how to put yourself to sleep at night. But it gets your attention, and then you become more aware of other things. So I think when you're cranky and irritable and people are getting on your nerves, you look around and you go, you know what? I don't want to do the dishes anymore. I cooked the damn dinner. Someone else can do the dishes, right? So I think that physical changes help to prompt some of those mental and spiritual changes as well. Right. So those are the rude awakenings, but I think of them as a gift, because even though they're uncomfortable, and we feel like we'd rather not, they get us to pay attention to ourselves. And in that, I think there is a profound beauty.
Yes, even when you were just mentioning, I cook dinner, so somebody has to do the dishes. Even that awareness, all of a sudden, to me, I
Yes,
saw it as a gift. I didn't see that as an annoyance. It's like all of a sudden I'm aware that, you know what, I, I'm not the slave of this family. There's other people in this family too. So, I mean, obviously it's a gift if you see past the annoyance of being
right.
a different person, that you're not doing it all. Because I kind of see it as a transition. Like
Yes.
you're noticing, and then it's this transition to you taking care of you and being fully you, and having the energy to carry out what you're here to do and not just do dishes.
Not just do dishes, or run the laundry, or drive everybody everywhere, but even the mental labor, right? Even that, what's going to go on the grocery list this week? Why does that always fall to mom? I hate
Yeah.
that job. I can't stand that job. So I think that's where that irritation shows you where your limits are, right?
Yes.
And there's a beauty in the irritation. But the trick is to recognize that you're getting irritated before you blow, because then you can get into a situation where you're damaging relationships, and partnerships become strained and that sort of thing. And if the partnership's at the end of the road, that's one thing. But if it's a partnership that you cherish and you want to continue, it's best not to get to the point where you're throwing shoes, right? You want to be able to recognize that you're going down the road of overwhelm, and to have the language to be able to call it, right? I remember
Right.
when I had that realization. I was a sole parent, and I was coming in with grocery bags, just be laden with grocery bags, and I walked into the front foyer, which is really small in my home, and I tripped over the knapsacks and the shoes that I had asked 1,017 times, please don't leave them in the foyer. It's dangerous. Somebody's going to get hurt. And it happened to me while I'm, a Sherpa with all the groceries, and I lost it, like screamy, weeny, hissy fit. And these two tiny little people they were old enough to be left alone. So, my daughter was a teenager, and then my son. They're staring at me like, who is this mad woman who just walked in the house? And like, where did that come from? And it was this pent up frustration of not being feeling seen or heard, and feeling taken advantage of, and all of that kind of thing. And it just exploded. So once I got back down into my body, I had a conversation with the kids, and I said, you know what? That was me being overwhelmed. From now on, I'm just going to tell you I'm starting to feel overwhelmed, instead of, getting to a point where it's a dangerous situation.
So how does someone like develop that language? Because like you said, if you can't communicate that transition that you're going through and the awareness, that you're trying to navigate, like how do you develop that language so that you're not blowing up and appearing like the crazy lady in
Well,
the house?
that's a really good question, and I wonder, and I don't know if other women have this experience, but it seems to me very often that women aren't heard until they lose their bananas.
Yes.
Right? We have to get to the point where we're raising voices, we're slamming things down on the counter, because otherwise our voices are just, they just travel on the air. So again, having that conversation, it's probably going to start after a blow up, to be honest with you. There's going to be a blow up, and then everybody's going to be like, what is wrong with you? And that's the opportunity. That's the opportunity to sit down and say, let's have a conversation about how I'm feeling. Let me tell you
Right.
what's happening with me. I can't sleep. I'm gaining weight. I am questioning what I want to do for the next several decades of my life. And at the same time, I'm feeling unheard, overwhelmed, taken advantage of. And I'd like to know what we can do in the future to prevent me having this blow up. Because if you think I like nagging you, you don't know me very well,
Yeah,
right?
exactly. Yeah, we
If
don't want to be
you
that person. It's
and
necessary.
we don't want to be that person. And why do we have to be angry before we're seen?
Right.
Particularly in our own home environment, right? We want to be able to have those conversations when we can say the words, I'm getting overwhelmed now. I'm going to my room. You guys sort this out. Or somebody else is making dinner today. Or whatever you need, you have to have the, as you say, the language for it. But I think it comes from having those really honest conversations where you have to say, I am changing, things are changing for me. And I want to be acknowledged now.
And then, like you mentioned that there's social pressures. Is it the same? Did you find it's the same for everyone, the same pressures? Or like, are there commonalities? Like, how would people again navigate between, okay, this is something society's imposing on me versus this is what I want? Because maybe that's a way to develop that language or awareness.
So there's a certain amount of awareness that is involved. So if you're doing something and you feel resentful the whole time you're doing it, that's a pretty good indication that you don't want to be doing it. And I don't mean the fact that you're doing the dishes after you did supper or after you went to the grocery store. I mean, you know what I mean? Like, I don't mean like that. But I mean, if, your partner isn't sharing the carpooling to kids' activities, that's just a simple conversation. Say it's got to be 50-50, but I think it's about centering yourself. And one of the activities that I get women to do in our Midlife Alchemy program is to sit down and list all of the roles that they have. So they have the role as partner, perhaps, mother, sister, daughter, friend, employee, employer, volunteer, you belong to some religious community, something like that. So you list all of your roles and then list all of the expectations that come along with those roles. And I'm talking here not about what you do necessarily, but what you have to bring to the table. So when you think of a social expectation of a mother is generous, self-sacrificing, giving, loving, nurturing, kind, patient, just always there and always available. And then you think about your expectation as an employee, for example. What is required of you as an employee? Well, dedication, commitment, hard work, reliability. That's another one too. But then list all of the things that are required of you in that role, and then do it for each of the roles and see how contradictory a lot of them are. And then, like, when you think of yourself as a mother, kind, nurturing, always available, and then you think of yourself as an employee, what does your employer want? Well, dedication, nose to the grindstone, productivity, all of these things that are more masculine in their energy, right? And it's a contrast between who you're meant to be as a mother. Now, we all have these different facets of ourselves, and I'm not saying that that's wrong. However, when they conflict, like, let's say, for example, you're at work and one of your children is sick, or if you're caring for a parent, your parent needs to go to the hospital or something like that, you take time out of work, you get grief at work because you're taking time out. Mm-hmm. Then you do the caregiving that is being asked of you, and then you go home at night and you think, well, I feel really guilty for leaving work early today, so now I'm going to do some work at home. And then everybody at home is upset with you because you're not present for them. So there's these pulls, right, on who we are and what's required of us. And so when you're in those spaces, it's an opportunity to really think about how this makes me feel generally and who I'd rather be, right? Would I rather be the caregiver? Would I rather be the artist? Would I rather be the volunteer? Would I rather run the company? Where do I actually get my juice? Right. And then create that. Embrace more of that and welcome more of that into your experience. And then at least you're going to not feel resentful when you're called upon in these other roles. And then you can honor who you are in these other roles as well. I mean, I know when I was a young mom, I had the patience of Job. Like I was amazingly patient. I stunned myself how patient I was. And now I'm like, okay, like I've already said this twice. One more time,
Yeah.
right? So I think too the coming into yourself and understanding who you are and how you want to be in the world is really helpful. Again, it's another gift that comes at midlife. But that sense of just that inventory of what are my roles, what do I have to bring to the table in those roles? How much of that is natural for me, and how much of it am I forcing myself? And try to let go of those forcing myself things. It's not always easy, and if you're a mom, right? And that never ends. Um, but there are certain aspects of that that maybe you can let go or offload or share, right? So again, it's about realizing what you, I don't want to use the word limitations, but you have a finite amount of energy in a day, and how do you want to best use that energy, and what can you let go of? It's sort of like if you don't like cleaning your house and you're in a position where you can hire someone to do that for you, wonderful. If that person loves cleaning houses and you don't have to do it, that's a win-win. Or offload to a child. Here's
And
your.
it sounds like you guard your energy by really honoring your feelings. Like your feelings tell you a lot about what is going on. And when we suppress those feelings, that's when we tend to blow up and, lose that energy that we have.
So there's two things that are really important in what you said. One of them is the feelings. Yes, if it doesn't feel good, then look at it. If it feels good, look at it too, because you want more of that, right? But the other thing is, if we don't look at it, if we don't look at those things that don't feel good, our body will take them on. So we'll start to experience disease, dis-ease.
Right.
We'll start to feel, IBS, chronic fatigue syndrome, fibromyalgia. These are things that women get because they're not honoring themselves.
Right.
Breast cancer is another one. This sense of I'm not nurturing myself, and breasts are very nurturing. So I'm not suggesting that we do these things to ourselves, but they are a factor when we aren't honoring our well-being. Then our body will do something to get our attention. So if we ignore our feelings, which we can think of as like the little whisper, oh, I like that, or oh, I don't like that, then when we feel it in our body, it's like the 2x4. You didn't hear me when I whispered, boom, there you go, there's a stomach ache for you, right?
Right.
So when you're feeling dis-ease in your body, headaches, weight gain around the middle, if you have chronic pain, if you have digestive issues, all of these things could be linked to not feeling like you have control. Right. So we want to, first of all, in my program, I think it's really important that we look at the physical first, because if your physical is out of whack, then there's absolutely no way you can deal with the metaphysical, right? When you're in pain, and that's the only thing that you want to deal with. So I think that's an important first step. And anybody listening, if you're in pain, if you have, migraines, if you have fibromyalgia, if you have joint pain, that kind of thing, please get some medical help. So go see a healthcare practitioner, and avail yourself of all the genius that's available in the system. I don't mean just necessarily medical doctors. I mean naturopaths, chiropractors, osteopaths. There's a lot of different modalities that can help with holistic well-being, rather than just taking a prescription that makes the symptom go away, because that doesn't deal with the underlying issues, right? So I think that's the first step. Anyone who's feeling any kind of physical pain is please have a look at that first. And when you start to feel better, then you're more open to seeing opportunities around you.
So this ease, the opposite of ease,
Yes.
which comes from honoring our feelings versus suppressing our
suppressing
feelings.
and shoving them back down, and trying to ignore them, because we all know you can't ignore them for long, because you're going to blow.
Right.
You're going to blow, whatever that means. And it doesn't mean you're going to blow as in screamy, weamy, hissy fit, but it could mean you're going to blow and you're going to have burnout, right? Where your adrenal glands are just done and you literally cannot get off the couch to do anything anymore. So again, these rude awakenings that our bodies give us, we want to pay attention to them. We don't want to go, oh yes, well, the doctor says I have this. Oh well,
Right.
right? We want to heal because it is possible to heal. We want to remember that that we have the ability to feel good in our bodies,
Right.
or at least to feel better in our bodies, right?
Right.
Some people I understand have chronic conditions that are, that make life more challenging. And I'm not discounting that experience, but there are ways to feel better. And we tend to discount those ways.
Right. And if you could give women one superpower, what superpower do you think they need to overcome like
That
this?
women need?
Yes, like give women one superpower to overcome like our self-doubt, perceived limitations, or social pressure, any of these things that come up. What would be that superpower?
Courage. It's
Courage.
going to be okay.
Yeah.
It is going to be okay. Um, it really is required to make a change. So we can have this vision of what we want our lives to be. I have a vision that I'm going to have a few acres on the water and raise my own chickens and have a beautiful garden and herbs, and I have this really idyllic idea in my head, but I'm never going to get it if I'm just going to sit in my space here and complain about my lot in life.
Right.
Um, Fellowship is really important for women. Women need to talk. Women need to get things off our chest. It helps to increase oxytocin, which is really healing for us. But we can't get stuck in the talk. And I'm afraid that that's what happens too much. We get caught up in the network of complaining.
Right.
And when a suggestion is made about how to take a step just a little bit differently, have you thought about this? Suddenly there's 47 different reasons why that won't work for them. And if I could bestow anything to women, it would be just courage. Just you are worth it. And if you take that one little step that's a little bit different, I promise you, the world is not going to stop spinning.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, taking that one little step differently could change your world so much to the better, right? And the other thing is, have the courage to let relationships go that aren't serving you. If honoring your well-being causes tension in the relationships that you have, I invite you to look at those relationships and see, do they cause you ease or dis-ease? And have the courage to make decisions accordingly. And it's okay to let people go. It's okay to let family members go if, when you're in their space, you experience dis-ease. Now, you're not going to write them off, and you'll see them at family reunions and what have you, but you don't have to be in their space. You can love them from a distance. You can love people and not like them, right? So just having the courage to honor your own sense of well-being, if I could give anything, that would be it.
So it's just trusting what you need. And if it's manifesting in your body, then you know that it's something you need, like it's life or death. It's not just you making this up.
It's not just that you're making it up. You're not doing it for attention. Taking a drug that makes the symptom go away, it's kind of like you get a headache, right? Every day you get a headache at 3:00 in the afternoon. And so you think, okay, well, I'll just take a painkiller. That's fine. That'll get rid of the headache. Well, you're going to keep getting the headache every day at 3:00 if you don't start looking at what's causing the headache. Are you drinking enough water? Did you get enough sleep the night before? Is the chair you're sitting on structurally sound? I mean, we're so quick to go to the, oh, well, I'll just make it stop, without thinking about what's caused it. And let's change that story. And then I don't have to take Advil every day at 3:00, right?
Right. So how can we support you in your vision?
Well, so I would just like to share that my personal goal is to help 10,000 women, which is a lot, to find their courage, to see and embody midlife as a powerful beginning. We have a tendency to think of women when they hit, perimenopause and menopause, our culture shuts them down. And we have incredible power to go out and follow our passion, whatever that is, whether, some people call it dharma, some people call it mission, whatever it is. It doesn't have to be a job. It's just the thing that makes your heart sing, the thing that gives you joy. And if more women were doing that, the thing that made them feel strong and centered and joyful, I think that we could change the world. And I know that that's a big thing, but I think if enough people are living in integrity with what makes them feel good and why they were brought here to this earth, I think we can make powerful changes.
Yes, I think it starts with 10,000, but then there's that ripple effect that
Yes.
then just becomes unstoppable.
Yes.
Right? It's all about being like modeling what you think is missing so that others take on that.
And embrace the crone, right? I call myself a crone in training. But embrace the wisdom that you have achieved and share it with the younger generations, right? And look to women who are older than you are, and honor the wisdom that they have there. Because again, women have so much power, but we've been put in a little box and told this is how we're meant to behave, right? And we need to bust through that. We need to honor each other. And when we see a woman following her path, encourage her, right? Say, you go for that. You inspire me when you do that. When you do your thing, you inspire me. You inspire my daughter. You inspire my sister. Instead of looking fearfully and what kind of choices is she making? Those aren't choices I would make. It doesn't matter, right? It doesn't matter. If she's following her North Star, we need to honor that and encourage her along the way.
Yes, we need to celebrate and elevate each other for whatever.
Absolutely.
There's really no competition. That's a masculine trait too. Like I think women's sphere, we're really about supporting each other, because when a woman is supported, there's just no telling like how far she'll go. So
100%. And if we're all doing it, I can't even. We can tip this world back straight, I think.
Yes, I think so too. I'm so thankful to you, Lisa, for taking the time to share your gift with us today and your insights. It's just amazing. And there's just so much to unpack in this tiny 30 minutes. So I will be adding a link for you, people to reach you and get more information. It was really great.
Thank you so much. I enjoyed chatting with you today.
To learn more about Lisa, visit her website, lisapetty.com. Lisa is currently offering a free instant webinar, 3 Steps from Chaos to Clarity. She also welcomes you to join her free Facebook group, Making Sense of Midlife. And if you would like to see if the Midlife Alchemy program is right for you, schedule a clarity call with her. All the links are available below the video. If you haven't already, be sure to join our women's circle, Awaken Feminine, to reclaim your authentic voice through play. We meet to create connection, elevate, and celebrate each other through games and exercises geared to tap into our intuition and give voice to our longings and desires. If you have a gift you want to share with the world, I encourage you to schedule an interview with me so I can help you spread your unique message and perspective. You don't need any superpowers or be well on your way. You just need to have an idea, a vision, or a direction that you think will inspire others. And if no one told you today, I want you to know that you're amazing. Continue to live with passion, purpose, and presence. The world needs to see your light shine brightly as an example to others of what is possible for them also.